Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Teach, Sleep, Repeat.
My name is Dylan.
I forgot to say my name. I was so concentrated.
I thought you were cueing me in there.
I was so concentrated on saying it more slowly. I forgot that a bit came after.
Yeah, and I'm now concentrated on not doing this all the time.
What, on turning?
Yeah.
You're doing it again. You're saying stuff that most people don't watch. So they don't know what you're talking about.
How long will it take for you to realise that I don't acknowledge people that don't watch our podcast? I'm sorry. A podcast is not for listening to, is it? They're famously known for watching.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, my name is Dylan.
And my name is Hayden.
And we're back with another episode. Thank you all for tuning in. How's your week been, Hayden?
Good. I'm just imagining. I always imagine someone watching it for the first time.
Yeah.
And just hearing that my name's Dylan a second ago. I'm really being a bit confused now.
If this is your first episode because someone's very kindly told you to listen, thank you to that person. And I'm sorry for what you're about to hear because we've been quite unhinged for the last few weeks.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a reason for that unhingedness.
I moved house.
You moved. Dylan moved house recently.
Yeah. How was your week, Hayden?
Yeah, good. He had a baby as well. Sorry, he did have a baby,
yeah. Okay,
which he doesn't normally mention.
Did not take long to mention that.
Let me just get my notes up.
You wait until I tell you about my week. I wonder what I've been up to.
I'm looking forward to it. So Dylan, we normally talk a lot and we just haven't spoken that much because obviously you're a bit busy. So I'm looking forward to hearing your stories.
Okay. What have you been up to this week? Because you've been at work the whole time. Both actually been in work this week.
Yeah, it was weird seeing you.
Really
weird.
Yeah.
I couldn't actually get my head around the fact that you were there already.
I know.
It's just gone by so quickly, your whole paternity leave.
A 3.5-week-old at home and I have to go and do like 10-hour days. It's just bizarre to me. It's crazy.
Do you know what worried me a little bit was it was so bizarre seeing you after 3.5 weeks. Now, you luckily had the half-term week.
Yes.
Didn't you, as well? And
a bit of extra.
Just a couple of days because of our part-time. And then I was like, oh my days, that feels crazy to me. And I'm going to get 2 weeks.
Yeah, because you're going to be midterm.
It's going to be midterm. So we've got roughly 2 weeks left until we have our baby.
It's exciting.
Which is so super cool. But I am already worried. Like 2 weeks, I've got to go back to like full days.
I made the point really quickly about, I was talking to someone because obviously we're in a female dominated profession. So we have a lot of maternity cover going on. And just at our school in general, which so happened like the last few years, it feels like there's always been at least two people on maternity.
Yeah.
And when they return to work, it's really tough. And I've always been like, God, yeah, that must be really tough returning to work. But they are returning to work with a 1-year-old where you can have established routines.
Yeah.
You can have built up this idea of they know when bedtime is, they know mummy's gone and they understand that and they're going to go.
Maybe.
They're going to go with someone. But it's much easier to do that by the time they're 1 year old.
Yeah.
You've had that whole year to build up that relationship with them. Whereas from the male teacher's point of view, I'm just as involved with the child. I think it's a very modern thing now. Like you talk to older people like, oh, he never did that. It's like, I'm doing everything that I can and we're sharing it out. But then suddenly I've just got to go back to work with a 3-week-old.
Yeah.
Like no routine at all.
Yeah.
Suddenly I've got to try and impose a routine of 10-hour days. My child doesn't respect that.
No.
I was up the other night until 1:30 and then I woke up and was awake from 4:45 because he's up. He needs someone there to like change his nappy. We're trying to do it together. Sometimes it's a 2-man job. I want to support and help. I can't just switch that off, and I find it really tough, to be honest.
You've been very good. You haven't looked as tired as I thought you might look.
After 2 weeks went over the hump of feeling tired, and now my body's just like, no, you don't feel anything now. You're numb. But I want to hear about your week, please.
I've actually suffered a little bit because I don't know if you had this, and it'll be interesting to hear. Being someone who's like 4 weeks ahead of me now, is I have been really, really, really anxious about the baby. Particularly this morning was the worst. I just haven't experienced it like that before. I'm just mega, mega anxious about just the health of the baby because it's completely out of my control.
Yeah.
And I hate it. And there's nothing I can do. And basically the baby didn't move for like a couple of hours this morning. And it just sent me into a massive spiral panic, genuinely. Like I was completely having an anxiety attack and just trying to play it cool. But it did, and I hated it. And I'm like, did you have anything like that?
Oh yeah, like it's tough. It's tough as well in the pregnant period. As the dad, like I don't want anyone to think at any point I'm saying it's tougher for the dad or anything. Not at all. But it's our perspective as the men that it's really tricky because not only is it kind of like it's just an abstract notion, isn't it? Whilst it's in the womb. It's this abstract thought. You don't have an idea of what they look like exactly yet. It's a baby. But it's like this abstract thought. We didn't even have a name for him yet. and it's not in your body.
Yeah.
You can react to, if it's in your body, the movements and stuff. You have much more of a head on what's normal, what's not. From our point of view, we're just relying on that information coming from our partner. And also, we just don't know anything about how they're getting on. We just see a bump growing.
Yeah.
It is anxiety inducing, and you worry. And also, I don't know about you, I felt a lot of the time like if we ever went through a period of like, oh, a bit worried about this, because there were bits in the pregnancy where we were just like, oh gosh, like what's happening, blah, blah, blah. I felt like I had to be the one to be more rational and at least exhibit confidence that everything's okay. Even though absolutely at points I was like, oh my God, I'm really scared. Like I'm really worried what's going to happen.
Yeah, I guess that's how I feel now. I do generally try to be that. If I'm not doing the growing of the baby, the least I can do is try to be a good support.
Yeah.
But yeah, this morning it was the other way around, 100%. Like Lauren was consoling me because I was just panicking. I was just really panicking.
I will say one thing. After the baby comes, it doesn't get better.
And I thought that as well.
I'm sorry.
I was like, oh man.
It just changes because it goes from like the unknown to still the unknown, but you can see what's going on.
Yeah, well, because your job as a parent forever really, but particularly those first few months is like, cool, that thing over there relies on you to survive, and that's your job now apparently. And it's like, okay, that's terrifying. Thanks.
Yeah. Like Rory's on medicine. He's got some oral thrush. Quite normal.
Yeah.
But the anxiety in even giving him that, because it's not milk that he should drink, he's drinking milk and he's growing and he's a baby. The idea of me putting chemicals in his mouth, even though I know it's medicine and I know it's to treat his thrush, which is probably making him uncomfortable. Yeah. And we're doing it, of course. But that first time it went in, I almost felt like I wanted to just like throw it in the bin. And no. And we put it off for a day. We didn't do it for a day because we were like, oh, but he just wants his milk. Like we just felt wrong doing it. Yeah. But it's the best thing that's helpful for him. You've got to listen to, what's good for him. And the anxiety, it just changes. Like I've said before, during the night, beforehand, I slept quite well. And it might have been Lauren who didn't because like she was up like always kicking, always uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Now I sleep badly because I hear him breathing and I'm just like, I don't know what's normal. Yeah. So like it's the unknown. It's the unknown.
Yeah, for sure. And it'll become normal. It will. We'll become more
it's already becoming that way.
Everyone says that, don't they? You just become experienced. It becomes more normal. Yeah. But I suppose the positive side is Lauren has now started her maternity leave officially, which is really cool. So she's now.
I found that a really big milestone for me. How do you feel? Like it wasn't me off.
Yeah.
But I felt like it was a huge milestone in terms of our shared experience of the pregnancy, in that's just one less thing for her to worry about.
Yeah, I'm loving it because it's also one less thing for us to worry about, because I was getting to the point where I'm worrying about her at work. Yeah. We're all teachers, all four of us. And so the idea of my 36-week pregnant girlfriend at school.
36-week-old girlfriend.
Yeah, I know. I was like, hang on a minute. Walking around at school. Yeah, it's just super vulnerable and like obviously in pain and just generally more tired and knackered and stuff. I'm like, oh, I don't like this. Can she just be at home nesting?
So weight lifted off, isn't it?
Yeah. So now I know she's just at home, just chilling out, just relaxing, not being stressed.
They went for a walk. He went for a walk with Rory the other day.
I know. They had, exactly. They met up, and that was nice to know. So that was cool. But in terms of other news, not just related to babies, at school this week, you'll be pleased to know. I found my people. Okay. So in my class, I've got a group of boys. Right. And they're just so cool and quirky, right? Yeah. And one of them was talking about origami like, on Tuesday.
You like origami?
I loved origami. Yeah. I not something I do
fact
now.
I know about you. No, but you were obsessed with it.
As a kid, I loved origami. I just got obsessed with folding paper, as you do. And
what a sentence.
And these kids are really into it. And normally when kids talk about origami, they do the most simple things ever. It's not really that interesting. You pretend, but these guys were doing like really complex stuff, and I was like, ooh. Tomorrow lunchtime, if you want to, we could do some origami together. This is me saying to them, knowing full well I'll need to mark.
Pretending that it's for them. Yeah, it's for you.
And we had such a good time. They came back at lunchtime. One of them brought in his origami book. They all came. I got some paper. And we sat there and we made some stuff together. They made a dragon. We made a flower. And I enjoyed it so much, even though I knew I had marking to do. And I really, really needed to get that done. They enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed it as well. To the point where I was like, yeah, if you want, we can do it every Wednesday.
What's better net for the children? Genuinely, them doing that club with you,
or having their work mark,
or having their work. Honestly,
yeah, it's that 100%. Yeah, the mark I worked, the work I marked, like I mean, we've talked about it before, and we'll have a whole conversation, I'm sure.
I mean, today's going to be great for it. Because we are going to literally dive in.
We'll do that later, but yeah. So I do think that was a much better experience, but the problem is I still had to get the work marked, even though I don't think it was particularly useful.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's my week anyway. I've waffled on there.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, I returned to work. That was odd. Not nice. Tough day one at home with mum and kid. Just, I think it's both of us felt quite isolated separately.
We've had 3 weeks glued together.
Glued together, and I do one thing, Lauren can rest, Lauren does something, I can rest. It's just this whole tag team kind of thing for it to be manageable. Suddenly, it's, no, you've got to do it. Dylan, me, you've got to do it all morning before you go. And then you've got to go to work, and then it's your turn when you get home as well, which is incredibly intense. Yeah. But it's also exactly how it needs to be, because that 10 hours whilst I'm at work is even more intense for Lauren at home. Yeah. Like it's I can't imagine not being able to, like, being tethered to this baby. It's beautiful.
Do you know that's the unpopular opinion still?
What's that?
Like in culture, that like so much of male culture still insists that
I'm at work.
I'm at work as the man doing work, so therefore I'm knackered in the evening. No. You're just at home all day with the baby. You crack on. Nah. How mad is that? Perspective.
I think we need to really push and keep and not take praise. I don't want. I think it should be normal. Yeah. I don't like it. Like, I've had a lot of people say to me, and it's lovely. So I say I don't like it. Of course, it's nice when people are nice to you, but I think it just ingrains the culture. The amount of people who've said to me, "Oh, he never did that." Yeah, he never did that.
What, the basics?
Yeah, not even like dissing him. Yeah. Not even dissing their partner. Not even like saying it was a bad thing.
Yeah, that was the norm. You're doing extra.
Oh, he never did it. Wow, you're changing the nappy. Yeah, of course I am. It's a nap. What you on about?
You're getting up at night and doing.
Yes. But you've got to go to work in the morning. You've got to look after and keep a baby alive all day. You need rest as well. Yeah. It's not a one-way street.
It's that idea of unpaid work, isn't it? That's all it is. Like, we need to get out of this idea that work only counts as work when you're paid for it.
Or the amount of money is proportionate to the importance of the job.
Or how hard you're working.
Yeah, it's complete nonsense.
It's rubbish.
Because, like I always say, when I'm at work, although it's tough and I'm knackered and I'm really tired, and then we talk about teaching being full on, at least I can have a 3-minute conversation with another adult. At least I can interact with the children.
Go to the toilet.
I can go to the toilet.
Without thinking, where's the... Yeah. Who's going to look after the baby for a few minutes?
Because genuinely, after Monday, Lauren was calling me saying, when you're getting home, I need to go to the toilet. Yeah. Like, how mad is that?
Yeah, because she's been completely occupied all day.
Because he wouldn't settle. Yeah. He wouldn't settle for hours and hours. So you have to be keeping him busy because you don't want your baby to be upset. Yeah. Like, of course you don't. Like, you can't. And, it might sound silly to people like, oh, of course you can just go to the toilet. It's like, yeah, but we are, really focused on his well-being and him being happy. And it just gets into that situation where you find yourself not being able to do it. No time for yourself. So if that means I get home knackered, but then I hold him, I change him, I feed him, I make sure he's okay for the next couple of hours, whilst Lauren just sits down.
And just has a break.
To me, that's fine. I had a break. I had half an hour at lunchtime. That's more than she got.
Yeah, yeah.
I agree with you. I think it's really important that as a culture we push that it's a two-way street.
I remember seeing a TikTok before that was the same sort of thing, and it was like a video of a dad doing these like basic things, and the video was all like, wow, and then it just cut to someone else basically being like, wow, well done, he's doing basic parenting. Yeah. Yeah. He's doing the absolute basic necessities of parenting. There's nothing impressive here whatsoever. Just doing what you're supposed to do. Yeah. And if you're not going to do that, then don't be a parent.
Yeah. Like tomorrow evening, for example, Lauren's mum got her tickets ages ago for a show. And, Lauren was like, oh, I don't know whether to go or not. I think that's just her personal opinion. Like, oh, I don't know whether I want to go. Not can I. Yeah, I don't know whether I want to go. And she was almost like waiting for me to say what I thought. Right. And I was like, I appreciate that because we are, you need to talk to each other and organize stuff. But I don't have an opinion on whether you should or shouldn't go and do something. I'm here doing this podcast. Yeah. It becomes, when it's the mum, it's like, oh, you're leaving, are you? Yeah. Because I'm a human as well. I'm a mum and I'm a woman. I'm going to go watch a show with my mum. And then I hate the idea. And I almost fall into the trap because I don't even feel this way. But you think to yourself, yeah, I'll look after him. As in it's a fate. Like, no, I'm not even looking after him. Yeah.
The worst word ever.
I know. It's like, no, I'm just being the dad. There's no word for
just
that.
Just being that you're a 50-50 team and I'm doing my share right now.
I completely agree.
Yeah. I'd be really interested because obviously this is all brand new to us. It's all very, very new to us. And I imagine we've got a lot of our listeners, perhaps our parents already. please write us in with maybe some like one or two like your top things that you picked up as a parent, or just even your opinions on this cultural side of things, because we'd be really, really interested to hear kind of your experiences as a parent as well.
I suppose the thing that we're aiming for is the well-being of us two is going to be directly linked to his well-being.
Yeah.
If we let that slip for either of us, then it's going to end up being detrimental to him.
Yeah.
If Lauren is absolutely knackered every single day because she's not getting rest in the evening, then the days will be worse for him and her.
I agree.
So, it's a cycle. We talk about it all the time. And I think it's really tough for both of you, but you have to take the load. And work isn't an automatic, well, I'm not doing this thing.
Yep.
Anyway, so I returned to work.
Yeah.
That was my work. It was weird. It was tough. But it was nice because I got to see the children.
Yeah, and they love you, didn't they?
Oh, I love that. Thank you. And so, yeah, I went back to work. And before I left, obviously, on playground duty, I was speaking to some children I taught last year.
Right.
And they were all very excited because they knew I was going off on maternity leave. And I'd asked them specifically all for names for Rory because we hadn't had a name.
I remember because they're running around.
Yeah, they're running around. Oh, what's the name? And they were like going up to you and I was like talking to everyone. And they come up with silly names like the Lorax and Half because it'd be half price. Spoke about it before. So one of the girls came up to me and was like, what's his name? Because she really took it as her job to get me a name for him. So she got to say, what's his name? And I went, Rory. Rory's his name. She's like, oh, Rory, how lovely. You should have called him Baby Gherkin, like that, because of the Gherkin story. I can't remember if I've told the Gherkin story.
We have at some point. Go back and listen to all of the episodes to find the Gherkin story.
There you go. Yeah, because we didn't know where it was. But essentially, my nickname when I was younger was Gherkin, and there's an origin story behind that involving a McDonald's Gherkin and a cricket coach. But I told my children this, and then I was Mr. Gherkin for the rest of the year. And anyway, and I also told them the story of how I was named after a gorilla. Because that was also what I told them when I was naming my child. Because my mum went to Chester Zoo. There was a new gorilla called Dylan. That was my name, Dylan, from then on. So anyway, she said to me, you should have called it Baby Gherkin. And then another kid was like, yeah, Baby Gherkin. It could be like, or Gorilla. Or Gorilla. You could call him like Gorilla Boy or Baby Gorilla.
It's nice that they remembered.
I know, they do remember the story. And then the girl who came up first said, oh yeah, it can be like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. But instead, it's the 3 gorillas and a gherkin. And I was like, you have to write that. I was like, that would be amazing. You have to write that.
Yeah.
Thought nothing of it. A couple of days pass. I walk into assembly, dropping my kids off. And I'm walking back through and I just hear this voice in assembly where you're meant to be silent. This voice goes, Mr. Price. Mr. Price. And I'm looking around and it's her. And she was like, I've got the story. And it was in her pocket.
No way.
So she got it out of her pocket and she handed it to me. I've left it at school annoyingly, so I'll make sure I post a picture when I get it on our Instagram, Teachsleeprepeatpod. And anyway, she'd rewritten Goldilocks and the 3 Bears, but it was Gherkin and the 3 gorillas. And it was all about a twerking gherkin. And she drew a gherkin knocking at the door. The gorillas had gone away and the gherkin came home and the gherkin was trying out the bed. It was trying out the sofa.
Here's what we're going to do. Dylan is going to check out our Instagram. When he's got the story, he's going to video himself reading off the story with a picture of it as well. And it's going to be an Instagram reel.
It was just so sweet. I was like, do you know, again, everyone clicked on this podcast. You clicked on it because we're obviously going to be talking about the dire situation of this whole profession, of the amount of teachers leaving. This was one of them moments again where you're just like, oh, of course, these are the best bits.
Yeah, this is why not everyone's leaving.
Yeah, exactly.
This is what's keeping me here.
Exactly, it's what hooks you in. And I tell you what, it's not doing 17 different lessons in one day. But we'll go on to that anyway. So that was really nice. And we one other thing I wanted to talk about, we did a states of matter lesson. So we were doing solids, liquids and gases, just literally introducing them. And then we're going to do some experiments in the next couple of weeks. So it was a very simple task. Okay, it was introducing solids, liquids, and gases. We talked about what they are, and it was literally just in the context of rain. So in the context of rather precipitation, because we talked about the water cycle. So we said, okay, think about different types of precipitation, and where would you put them in a chart of solid, liquid, and gas? The point being that you wouldn't really have anything in gas.
Yeah.
But then you can have a discussion about whether it's liquid or solid, and then it sparked some really cool discussions about how you can change state, because people are like, oh well, isn't snow a solid? But then when you catch it, it turns into water, but that's a liquid. So it was a really nice conversation starter for them. But before we got into any of that, it was simply just, can you think of anything? Precipitation, and there's me thinking, okay, let me clarify precipitation. Anything that falls from the sky, precipitation. Okay, so anything that falls from the sky can you think of it? Would it be a solid, liquid, or a gas? So the kids are chatting away, chat away, chat. And I say, right, okay, everyone, hands up. Who's got anything that they think falls from the sky that is a solid? God puts a hand up. Me. It's like, yes. What do you think? A dead bird. I was like, it does fall. It's my fault. It is a solid. It is a solid dead bird.
No, liquid.
Yeah, I said, no, it's not a smoothie, is it? Okay, yeah, it is a solid. But sorry, let me clarify, guys. I was thinking more solid, liquid, and gases, but precipitation. So, like rain. We'd say rain was a liquid.
Yeah.
Can you think of anything that is a solid? Like if water freezes, what might it become? So have we got anything that's a solid that can fall from the sky? Another girl opposite her put her hand up, obviously thinking of me going, water freezes, so that becomes a solid. Put her hand up. Yeah, a frozen dead bird. At which point,
was you being serious or just purely?
No, I don't know. But the point being, after she said that, I'm laughing. So all the kids take that as a cue, right? Take that as a cue now. Cool. Next kid. Okay, brilliant. We're all laughing. All right, guys. Seriously now. Okay, a solid precipitation.
Yeah, please, someone say like
a
ice
solid.
Or something.
Yeah, can we think of something that is actually a solid, please? Okay, cool. Before you say anything, I want a serious answer now. Okay, no more silly business. What do you think? And I swear to God, kid put his hand up. Goes, Jesus.
What? That's hilarious.
Jesus falling from
Jesus from the sky.
Okay,
I get the link
cool.
there.
So yeah, we just closed our books at that point.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah, lesson's done. Well done, guys. Go home. Tell your parents what you learned. See you later.
Mr. Price said dead bird was precipitation. No, I didn't.
Well, no, he actually said Jesus was. So you got that wrong, child.
But yeah,
very good.
I mean, we're back to work. It was nice to see the children, but I will say, I would have rather been at home. Probably for the first time in my career, I was like, oh, I would just rather not. I'd rather be at home now. Yeah, fully. Yeah, and I get that's just that's just being a parent.
Do you think it affected how quickly you got stuff done, or was it just normal work?
Yeah, it affected A, how quickly I got stuff done, and B, how much stuff I got done. Because I literally was just like, well, I'm going.
Yeah.
Especially on that first day when Lauren was like struggling at home.
Yeah. She just
had a bad day, and she was like, when you're coming home, I was like, cool, right now.
Yeah, obviously.
And if anything didn't get done, I would literally just be like, yeah, sorry, no, because I get 2 weeks off to look after a baby.
Yeah.
So the fact I've delivered my lessons, actually, that's what we're getting today, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
And no one was funny about it, but if someone was funny about it, I would be very comfortable being like, nah, sorry.
No, I'll do 10 hours. Yeah. I'll do 10 hours of work.
I was in the building for that long, and if there's something else that needs doing, because after that, then the system's broken. And I thought that anyway. That's what I was doing. So, I mean, my baby's at home.
Yeah. I get it.
Bye.
I get it. I get it.
But yeah, I mean, interesting week. There's a poo story. If you want to know a poo story.
Poo story? We want a poo story.
You want a poo story? Yeah. I tried not to talk about Rory because last week.
Are you joking?
God, this just sums. Oh my God! Anyone listening who had a newborn, like I'm going through this learning curve, okay? And anyone who hasn't got a newborn, get ready for what you're in for if you ever do plan on having children. So this was today, okay? Woke up in the morning and he fed. Okay, so he's feeding, all good. Changed his nappy after he fed. Mm-hmm. Went back, just holding him. He's awake for a bit. Laura was like, he's pooed. I was like, okay. He had pooed. Big poo.
Yeah.
Big poo. Filled the nappy. Okay. So I was like, okay, come on then. Because technically, we try and do shifts in the night. Technically, it was Lauren's shift. And because I'd got up, I'd fed him, I changed him. I went upstairs because it's my first day working from home. And I was like, oh, he's settled. I'm going to go and do a bit of work. So 20 minutes into doing work, all I hear was, Dylan. Yeah, he's done a massive poo. And I'm like, okay, I'm at home, so there's two of us. Let's make it easy. I'll go down and help out. I was obviously waiting for a reason to go and see him because I'd rather be doing that than working. Went downstairs, he did a massive poo. Turned into me changing him, basically. So I'm like, come here. So I take the nappy off, a lot of poo. And I was like, oh, God, okay. So wiping around carefully, poo gets everywhere, okay, all over him. So I'm wiping around carefully. Lovely, get that. Okay, take it off. Took the nappy off, and I was like, cool. We're wiped, we're clean. Got the other nappy. As I'm getting the other nappy, all I hear is,
oh.
So as I'm grabbing the other nappy, he's pooed all over his changing mat.
Oh.
Like I'm talking like a dog in the street when they've got a bit of diarrhea. Like it's not got any form. It's just all over the changing mat. Which, by the way, he's kicking his legs, so his bum's like rushing it, rubbing it in. He's kicking his legs. His legs come right up. He's flicking it with his toes. I'm like, no, stop.
God.
So I'm having to hold him. So I'm like, oh my God, okay. So I shift him up the changing mat, okay? So there's just a pile of poo on the changing mat, and he's like a good 10 centimeters up now. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, okay. So I make the decision at that point to leave the pile of poo because I'm actually just going to wipe him up, try and get him on a nappy straight away.
Yeah.
So I'm wiping him up. Just about to finish, I do one last wipe.
Yeah.
He starts pooing in my hand. Honestly, on the tissue. And I'm like, he's pooing. Lauren's just watching, laughing her head off. Not doing anything, by the way, just watching me. Yeah. He's pooing on my hand. So he literally started pooing on my hand.
Oh my God.
Fills it up. And I'm like, okay.
You're really selling this.
First time ever that I felt like I was going to be sick.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was like, ugh, pooing onto my hand. Sorry, listeners. By the way, as he's pooing onto my hand, he got sick. Onto the side, so he's turned over, goes, and he's got white sick coming out of him. I was like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. There's a pile of poo by my hand that I keep nearly dipping my hairy forearm into. I'm holding his poo that he's just done out of his bum. So I managed to fold it over, get another tissue. Okay. Yeah. I put it in the bin. Yeah. And then okay, right, getting a nappy. I'm like, okay, I need to get the nappy under him, but I also want to get rid of this poo because I keep nearly dipping into it. So I start wiping that poo up. Okay, put a nappy under, starts pooing.
No!
He pooed a third time.
Third time.
Okay?
Oh my God.
In a row. And I was like, oh, that's another nappy gone. Okay, so I go down and wiping him. Okay, cool. We're clean. Nice. Put that down. I literally stand up to go and put stuff in the bag and get out of the way. What does he do?
Poos again?
No.
6?
Big old wee all over the carpet. And at that point, he's quite relieved. He's just looking at me staring like, Daddy? You right? Yeah. I've turned 3 poos and you caught 2 of them. Yeah. And now I've pissed everywhere. so sick in his mouth, 3 poos, pooed on the mat, wee on the carpet. Finally got him down. This was the most disgusting bit. At the end, there was a bit of poo obviously on the mat still. I get a wipe. I wipe it, right? I look at my hand. The poo's gone through the wipe onto my finger. I'm like, how has that happened? It's gone through the wipe. Oh. It was disgusting. Oh. And I just want you to feel ready.
I am looking forward to it. Is what I have to tell myself.
I caught his sloppy poo in my hand.
Nice.
Obviously on a tissue, but I mean, that was one of the most chaotic 10 minutes ever. Went through 3 nappies. Had to change him because at this point, by the way, we're like, okay, we've got to change him because a bit of poo went up his back. Goes up his back.
Yeah.
Poo goes up his back. Poo comes down out of the bum, but somehow up the back.
Yep.
Covered his back in poo. So we took it off. And we're like, oh my God, his top's covered in poo. So I had to roll the top up to get rid of all the poo.
Oh my God.
Get it over his head. And then that just goes in some cold water and we'll try and get the poo out.
Yeah.
But then obviously I pick him up and I say, oh, he's got any poo in his back? And Lauren just goes, yeah, I'll grab a couple of wipes. Have to wipe his whole back down. Oh. He's just got poo all over him. Yeah. We ended up having to top and tail him, properly wash him.
Have you not potty trained him yet?
No, 3 weeks in sometime. Anyway, that's my poo story.
Oh man, that
should have come with a trigger warning.
Yeah, I hope people listening are either reminiscing on times where you've experienced this or thinking,
I'm not want to do that.
That is pretty funny.
We've had a long intro.
Nice. I tell you what, I think those blokes back in the day had it right. I've changed my mind.
Why could
maybe the culture wasn't so bad after all.
What could have made you think that all of a sudden? Brace yourself, pal. Brace yourself.
Oh dear.
But wouldn't have it any other way. Well, rat the poo would be good. But right, should we go on to our actual talk?
Let's do it.
So if you're watching the episode, you've either been sent it by someone who listened and thought that was good, or you clicked on the title because we're talking about teacher retention. There are a lot of teachers leaving the profession, a huge amount, more than ever. And this was inspired, I think, Hayder, by an interaction you had online. You spoke to someone as well, asked them about it, their background. So firstly, what did you see that kind of sparked this?
So it was a very brief interaction I had on Facebook, actually, in a group. And I asked this person if they wouldn't mind me sharing it, and it was all good. They just said to be anonymous. And they had commented on a post where someone was really, really, really struggling with their job. And it was one of those posts, teaching. It was one of those cries for help, like, I don't know what to do. I can't do this anymore. This job is just too much. And this person commented, and it really caught my attention. I'm going to read the comment to you. She said, as someone said to me at school today, unfortunately, to survive these days, you just have to not care. And at first, I was really triggered by that. I was like, no, that sounds like, what? What do you mean not care? Of course we care about our jobs.
How can you not care about the children?
But she was making a wider point. She said, not care about fabulous experiences for children, not care about brilliant teaching, not care about being exciting,
not care about learning how to read,
being a great subject lead, just not care. Turn up, teach the naff PowerPoint lessons they give you, do the pointless subject leader tasks and go home. It's so sad. And her actual point, it came across a bit like, oh, terrible advice there. Her point was, to this person who was struggling, if you try to do every single thing that they're expecting of you, you will burn out and be in the state that you're in now because you just can't do it all now.
And what happens when you're burnt out and you have nowhere else to turn? You quit.
You quit your job.
And it leads into that greater point, I guess. And I suppose what we want to do is start off by giving everyone some context about teacher retention and how many teachers are leaving the profession.
Well, luckily it's really good because the government told us.
They did
tell us more teachers.
They like to spin things. Yeah, the headline from the government was very interesting. Was we have, and this is true, Hayden. This is true. You can't say it's not true. We have more teachers than ever before teaching.
And we said this last episode. If you listened to our last episode or watched it, more importantly, then you'll know we made this analogy about that being meaningless, and we're going to explore how meaningless that stat is.
So let's start with that stat. Anyone kind of reading the government line, or maybe even certain papers, will have only seen the headline. There are more teachers than ever. Fantastic. What are they all worried about retention for? Brilliant. Why are we all striking? Well, here are the headline figures. So do you want to run through them, Hayden?
All of them? We're going to go through?
Let's go through.
Okay, right. So in the last bit of information that was gathered, so 21-22 academic year, 40,000 teachers left teaching. And that's not including retirement.
40,000.
That's working age teachers.
As a percentage, that's 9%. 9% of teachers left the profession that year. 1 in 10. If you know of 10 teachers, 1 of them quit. That is unbelievable.
And you might be thinking, but that's just another spin. That's just normal. We recruit those people. No, it's the largest number of people quitting since records began in 2010.
And I think one thing whilst we're talking about how many teachers quit, this number staggered me. Because it's quite a long process to go through to become a teacher.
Yeah.
So what percentage, viewers, listeners at home, might you think after 1 year quit the job?
Scream it at the screen.
Yeah.
I mean, at your earbuds.
At the earbuds that you're walking to work or driving to work. Yeah. What percentage of teachers quit the job after just 1 year? So if I was at home, I'd be thinking, well, it's just a few percent, I guess, because if 9% quit, then I guess a whole bunch of them must be older teachers who've tried it for a few
and also
years.
you've got that honeymoon phase when you start teaching. We've talked about it. We enjoyed it way more back then because it was all new, we're fresh.
Yeah, 13%.
Yeah, higher.
13%. 13% of teachers who qualified in September the year before have quit by September the year after.
That's mad, isn't it? They could have done a 3-year course at university, paid 30, 40, 50 grand in fees, and it was so bad that they were like, I can't do this. I will take the debt and the waste of 3 years and not do this.
So, Hayden, I guess we touched on this earlier.
13.
It's mad, isn't it? We touched on this earlier, though, about government spin. So the government came under fire.
Yeah.
Because they basically took all this information and their headline was, well, we have more teachers involved than ever. Why is that bogus?
Well, because it goes back to my analogy from last week, this idea of there's an increasing population.
Yeah.
Teacher vacancies have gone up every single year. There are more teacher vacancies now. So even though we have more teachers than ever, there are also more teacher vacancies available to be filled.
Because there are more children.
There's more human beings in the UK than there ever was.
So the number of pupils who are of school age has gone up quicker than the number of teachers we have.
Yeah.
So it's the classic thing of inflation, isn't it? When ministers come out and say, well, inflation is down 2%. It's only 8% now. And someone said, and people will see that in their pockets. Yeah, because they have even less money. It's still going up.
Yeah.
So it's the same idea.
Yeah.
It's completely disingenuous.
I guess, to put it into easy numbers sake for this exact analogy would be, okay, you've got 100 classes and you've got 100 teachers 1 year. Brilliant, okay? 5 years later, you've got 200 classes, you've got 140 teachers. We've got 40 more teachers than we ever had before.
Oh, bravo. That's such a good analogy.
Yeah, it's just, that's exactly it. But that's what's happened. That's real. This is not us like moaning like, we were just like really trying to exaggerate. It's literal numbers and facts.
Yeah.
That's the state we're in right now.
And I guess kind of linked to that, this kind of breeds into that idea of we have a problem. There are too many people leaving the profession. And the question is, why? Why are they leaving the profession? And one of the biggest issues I think we have is the government, and we're going to go into our top 5.
Yeah.
So I don't go into too much detail. But another big issue we have is that we kind of link to what you're saying about vacancies and not recruiting enough people. The way it manifests itself more seriously, in my opinion, is especially in secondary school. The amount of children receiving teaching from a qualified teacher in that subject
we have to be a specialist,
whittling away. Exactly. So if you're learning physics at A level or at GCSE, you need to have a qualified physics teacher to teach well at that level.
Me and you aren't going to walk in as qualified teachers and be able to do that job well. We're not.
You know, we always say, we learn how to teach. We have teaching strategies, but you have to have a huge bank of knowledge that takes years to build up. It's as simple as that.
In physics.
yeah, exactly. We could teach something we know well, but and that's why in primary school it kind of works, because the level of what you need to know is that of an 8-year-old. So we can pick that up quite quickly.
Everything's more basic.
If it's GCSE and A level, we simply don't have that knowledge.
No.
So you have to be taught by a specialist teacher who's been taught how to teach that subject well. And that is one of the biggest problems we currently have in this country, is the amount of children, or rather percentage of teaching hours, that is taught by non-specialists. So we've got some data here. I'm going to test you out. Okay?
Yeah, I've purposely not looked because he got really excited at this.
It was mad, because especially in the context of last week when we talked about Gillian Keegan complaining about missed teaching days and how it's horrendous. Well, here's a huge problem for you to solve right now, is that we are having children taught by non-specialists. That is also damaging. Of course it is. Of course it's not as good if they're taught by people who aren't specialists. So I'm just going to say a subject.
Okay.
I want you to whack out what percentage of the total time do you think is not taught by specialists.
All right.
Okay. So
I reckon I can do a good guess for this.
English.
I'd say that's a lower one. 5%.
8%.
Oh, a bit higher than
8%.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. So 8 out of 100
sets a precedent,
lessons.
because to me, English, that's quite a popular thing.
Okay.
Okay.
How about maths then?
Equally quite around the same, I reckon. 7-8%.
13%.
Oh no, it's higher as if.
13% of time taught by maths is taught by
maths.
non-specialists.
Maths is such a one where you just really need someone who knows what they're doing.
Okay, physics.
Less popular, I guess, than English and maths core subject. 5%, 10%.
27.5%. 27.5% of teaching time in physics in this country is taught by a non-physics teacher.
That can't be right.
Unbelievable. 25 million days they lost last year. Do you want to sort their attention crisis out? Because we need some physics teachers.
That's more than a quarter of pupils.
Yeah. Mad. And the last one. So government, this is the last one I'm going to test you on, because the government are huge at the minute on the AI revolution and how AI is going to save us and workload's going to be solved. You know, it's going to have a big impact. We've seen it with TeachMate AI, very helpful. Yeah. But the government are really leaning on this now. They want it to be really important. And they know the importance of the future of being a leader in this. And that comes into computing. We teach computing at school.
Yeah, of course.
So obviously we need really, really well qualified people teaching computing to our children.
Yeah, otherwise it's going to be like what we got at school, which is just Microsoft Word and PowerPoint.
Exactly.
Which is great for the time, but it's all about coding now.
Should be coding, should be learning about AI, how to use AI. It should be a holistic thing.
How to use technology.
What percentage of teaching time for computing do you think is taught by a non-specialist computing
The way
teacher?
you've pitched this, I think it's going to be dreadful. I'm going to guess like 15%.
46%. 46%.
No way.
Nearly half of the time of the children in our secondary schools learning computing is taught by a teacher who is not a computing teacher. And this encapsulates the problem we have in our education system, which is rooted in 5 main reasons why teachers are leaving and not joining. Should we go through all 5 reasons?
Can I just say, I want to say one thing, because I feel like we could come across badly. And I don't want to.
No?
We don't think, well, I certainly don't, maybe you do, you're horrible. I don't think that if you're an unqualified teacher, you are automatically bad. But we know, statistically speaking, we're talking about a countrywide level here. Obviously, on average, people who are specialised in a subject are just going to be delivering that content in a better way.
It would be, or very much more likely to be. It's like you're playing the odds. Okay?
It's just an odds.
Statistical. Yeah, I think if we pretend it doesn't matter if you're qualified in a subject or not, that's a really dark route to go down.
Exactly. But equally, if we pretend that you're terrible if you're unqualified, then that's not the thing.
On the individual level, clearly there's differences. It's like the classic thing with, well, I was all right. Yes, you were okay, but as a group of people, maybe you weren't. Like that, it's that kind of idea. Scary. So we're going to go through the top 5 reasons.
That's what they're here for.
Why teachers are quitting, or I suppose as well, not joining.
According to Teach, Sleep, Repeat podcast.
Let's go. Okay, now, of course, this is a list that we've put together, but I think it is embedded. So
it's official then?
Yeah, it's official. It's like the celebrations list from last time. Anyone who disagrees is wrong. So we're going to go in reverse order.
Yep.
So what we think of importance is why teachers are quitting. Number 5, we put Ofsted.
Ofsted, yeah.
Why Ofsted, Hayden?
We talked a little bit about it last week, and we have kind of drip-fed it into some of our conversations, but on the whole, we do think it needs a bit of a reform. It's not really causing positivity in teachers' lives, is it? You know, most people get very, very stressed out by the thought of Ofsted, and it does kind of just boil down to that, really. Any extras from you?
Well, why is it only number 5 then? Why would you say it's number 5?
Well, because there are 4 things that we think impact it way more. That's why.
I think what I would say about Ofsted is a reason why I think it more drives people away. I think until you're in the situation of being a teacher, I think that you don't really realise the hold it can have on a school and the grip it can have, especially on management.
Yeah.
And I think the pressure from Ofsted is trickle down. I do think that. And I think it's very easy to get caught up from the top down. Pressure from Ofsted on senior leadership. Senior leadership feel that pressure and try and get middle leadership to be doing things with their time. Middle leadership then realise they don't have enough time to be doing that stuff, and then it goes down to teachers.
Yeah.
And it's that classic thing of, I think the one thing Ofsted does, and I wonder if you can connect the dots here as to why I think this, okay? So I think Ofsted is massively detrimental for the average teacher, because of the importance that teacher is expected to place on every single individual subject.
Right.
So do you think I know where I'm going with this?
Does it kind of link to your trickle down analogy though, in terms of?
So what I mean by it is, it's because of Ofsted that I feel pressure to be an expert in history and an expert in geography and an expert in music and an expert in science and an expert in English
and computing
and an expert in computing and an expert in maths, because we don't know necessarily if Ofsted come in with their deep dive finger and say, yeah, you can pick those 2, but by the way, I'm going to look at modern foreign languages.
Yeah.
Immediately, that idea of us not knowing what they're going to come in and deep dive means that every single individual subject has to be so finely prepared and amazingly put together, which is not a bad thing for our children, but the pressure it puts on a classroom teacher, knowing that, okay, Ofsted, we're in the Ofsted window, they could come in and say, history, okay, do you know your substantive concepts? Do you know all of your different reasons why we did this? Do you know the chronology across the school? Do you know what they learned last year? Do you know what they will learn next year? By the way, sorry, it might not even be history, it might be science. So here's the science lead to talk you through exactly what to say if the science comes in.
And it's almost 2 separate points, because you mentioned about how it's not necessarily bad. You sort of said that, and it isn't necessarily bad. I wouldn't want people to think that we don't think that anything should be held accountable. The idea of not knowing what they're going to deep dive in does kind of make schools ensure that everything's really good.
Drives up standards,
which is a good thing. However, it does still, regardless of whether we think that's good or not, it does still have the side effect of, it does make the job horribly stressful, and people are quitting because of it. So it's kind of like, we've got to consider both sides of this. If we get rid of it, then maybe standards will drop. But maybe recruitment will, maybe retention, will be higher. But then standards have dropped. So what do we want here?
It's a tricky one. I guess coming on to that again, Ofsted, there is this idea again of they're perpetuating this culture. And it's not necessarily them, because we've had an experience with Ofsted, and I think they're improving. I really do think they're improving, and they're putting a lot more of the ball in the park of the school. And I think a lot of schools need to realise that they don't need to be chasing their tail for Ofsted. And what a lot of schools do is Ofsted comes in their local area as local school, and then suddenly they get a good Ofsted report. So it's like, right, okay, down the road were Ofsted inspected and they got a good or outstanding report. What did they do? Because we're going to do it right now. And that idea of, okay, what do they do in science? Cool, we're going to change science right now. Oh, they do this in English and they focus on this instead. Cool, we're going to change English right now. And this idea of change, and I think the reason why Ofsted is maybe 5th is because it perpetuates something a bit further up the list. So maybe we should move on.
We'll come back to this, because this is a conversation that will happen with one of our last points.
So Ofsted 5th.
Ofsted 5th. In 4th place, we've put culture.
Oh, that's broad.
And it's very broad. And
what do you mean by culture?
What I mean by culture is there's lots of things that we can talk about with culture. For one,
art. Museums.
Not so much that. I'm thinking more like parent culture and how we're portrayed in the media, for example, the culture around teachers.
And why then, Hayden, would that make teachers quit? Why is that driving teachers out?
Well, if we talk about media for a second, because it's terrible. It's so negative all the time.
We're portrayed
negative.
badly, aren't
We're
we?
portrayed really badly. Teachers are portrayed terribly. And also, it's not hard to do that because a lot of people growing up don't have a great experience at school, okay? Because school is a system that is very much one size fits all. And people do just go through it and not have a good time. And so they grow up and think, yeah, teachers are terrible. I hated my teachers. I hated school.
Which, by the way, I do think needs reform. I think the teaching, that's a separate argument though. But, there are good people in the job and it whittles away at you, doesn't it? When imagine being really stressed, like I said, you're in the Ofsted window.
Trying really hard to do your job properly as well.
Working really hard. Yeah. And then all you see in the media is lazy teachers want more pay for less work, or teacher pulled up because they said that same-sex marriage is a thing. How dare they? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Winds me. And it's always the right-wing media, it feels like, who are looking at something to be wrong. I think that's something as a teacher, the people in power are always looking for something to be wrong.
Unlike us here at Teach Sleep Repeat, where we only talk about the good things.
I mean, though, I think it's important to say the people in charge, they are in charge of education. That she is our boss, Gillian Keegan. Yeah. Whether we like it or not, it comes from the top down. It's always looking to trip us up.
Yeah, she's not got a good word to say about us.
No, I don't think so.
That's it.
And if she does, it's hollow because in the next sentence she'll say, by the way, you're stripping your rights, you can't strike.
Yeah, it's rubbish. So that's one part of culture. Also parents, I think that's always a fun conversation.
So, okay, I think this is something we can dive our teeth into, I suppose. Because we see it a lot online, don't we?
You combine two phrases, dive into and dig your teeth into. Get your whatever.
We can dive our teeth into this because parents is something I don't think either of us have a hugely negative experience with parents in general.
Like the odd couple over the years,
But for sure, we see a lot of experience of people who say, right, I'm quitting because the expectation. And a big thing I want to talk about, and I wonder what you think about this, the kind of growth of parent WhatsApp groups, parent social media groups, and how that can become insidious. A lot of them are lovely, a lot of them are brilliant, but it can become insidious.
I tell you what, I haven't got it here, but I did see something recently that just made me think, I'm so glad this has not happened to me, because it is potluck. Was this teacher, again, on a Facebook group, was just saying something along the lines of, a parent has messaged me, has emailed me rather, and said, on behalf of everyone in the WhatsApp group, already straight away, we don't like the way you're doing homework. It's not effective and you need to change it, and was really aggressive about it. And this person was sort of like, I'm following the school policy.
That's
and this
soul
is what
crushing.
needs to be done. It just completely ruined their day. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's the kind of person that 6 months down the line, that happens one more time, they'll quit. Yeah. Because it's horrible.
And like you said, it's potluck. And the way teaching is, especially in a primary school, if you happen to... we're in October, by the way. So she's got that class until next July. Right? So she's got that relationship with that parent for 10 months of the year. And if it sets off on that foot, it's not going to improve. Yeah. It's going to whittle away at you. You're going to feel like you're being judged at every turn because it doesn't matter if you've seen it or not. You've been discussed in a WhatsApp group negatively, apparently by a whole group of people.
And you know what? People do their jobs badly sometimes. And I don't want to take away and say we're all perfect. That's not the point. I think the wider point here is there's no trust anymore. We're demonized by the media, and that does trickle down to just the everyday parent in your school.
For sure.
And sometimes we're just treated really badly, and it's not acceptable. I'd say of the very, very, very few experiences I've had, and I have been very lucky over the years of negative interactions with parents, it has always boiled down to them basically just looking at me like I'm just not good enough to do that job and disagreeing with something that I've done professionally, which I wholeheartedly still believe in. And they're like, nah, don't do that, you're wrong, because that's just stupid. That's a stupid
because it's
idea.
my child involved.
Yeah, actually my child told me this and you're wrong. And it's like, well, do you know what you could do? Which it used to be the norm. Trust me, and I'll tell you what your child did, because I'm an adult and I saw it, and I've taught thousands of children. I know you've raised one or two, but I have worked and taught with thousands of children for so much time.
That's such a good point.
Give me a bit of trust.
It's such a good point, because we are at the point now where we are in the thousands. Yeah. So and again, not to go all, I've had a kid now. With Rory, it's my child. Obviously, he's special. He is special to me. But I think what overrides that massively when he goes to school will be if he gets into trouble or has an altercation with a teacher, in that moment with the teacher gets the utmost respect and belief. Straight away, blanket. If for whatever reason, potentially maybe like you said, a teacher has not done their job properly and is maybe picking on him, which is rare, and I will not believe it, and I'll have to be proven otherwise, then we can go home and I can talk to Rory about it, and we can go about what we need to go about. But in the moment, professionally, but in the moment, to like undermine a professional, because, and again, I think it comes down a lot to an emotional response from parents sometimes. And I think, again, as a teacher on the other end of maybe when a parent's annoyed at something, you have to just kind of be very matter of fact, very much say, this is what happened and this is why it happened, and then hope to kind of disarm their emotional response.
It's hard.
And it's really hard. But you want them to come away from, my child's upset, that's the worst thing that could possibly happen, and it's because of you. Because have you upset a child before?
Yeah, I'm sure
Of course
I have.
I have as well. Of course I have, because it's part of my job sometimes to remind children that they're not doing the right thing. Yeah. And children don't like to hear that, and they can get upset about it, or they can be upset about something else. I might have done it accidentally. I might have, when I'm handing something out or giving out jobs, maybe I just forgot to give that child a job for a few weeks and they feel left out. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do it. I'm very sorry you felt that way. We can fix it. But if a parent comes in all guns blazing, you never picked my kid for this or that, it's going to eat away at you. Yeah. And you're going to end up thinking, okay, you do know, don't you, that I literally planned for 4 hours at the weekend, a week of science lessons for your child to have a really engaging experience. Yeah. And I could have just not done that, and we could have just been copying things all week. Yeah. But I really value your child's time, and I'm a professional.
Yeah. And this is the only interaction we're going to have.
This is the only interaction we're going to have. You're not going to say thank you for that. And by the way, actually, why should I bother? And then that is just another thing on the list why teachers will quit. They don't feel trusted anymore. Why would you bother?
Nice. Moving on then to number 3. Third on our list. It's pay. Pay and funding, we've called it, because we wanted to separate those ideas a little bit more.
And I think there is that issue sometimes of like, teachers just want something in their back pocket. No, we want funding from the government to pay our pockets because we want to live.
Obviously.
But we also literally see with our own eyes what happens. And I think, Hayden, maybe you could address this, because I think a lot of people will be looking at this thinking, 3? Whoa, I have the impression from the media, from the culture, this is all you care about.
Yeah, of course.
So, why is it 3, but why is it important?
Okay, right. It's 3. It's hard to say why it's 3 without just saying the other 2 things.
No,
right?
I know that. But what I mean is, can you explain to people why we don't just care about getting paid?
Okay, I'm going to say something first, right? I think there is this bizarre opinion, maybe this goes back to culture a little bit, that teachers should be totally selfless and only do things for the kids. So far, it's got so bad that it's like, you shouldn't even consider what you're paid anymore. It's like, what are you talking about? Have you met a human being that's an adult? Like, of course we care about what we're paid for. I didn't go to uni for 3 years and get in 30, 40 grand of debt, genuinely, to come out with a job that I could have got very, very easily without getting 3 years into debt. I wanted to be, reimbursed for that. Obviously, that was part of it. I also did it because I love teaching.
Yeah.
But so there's a little bit of us, and there should be. It's normal. You have to be a little bit selfish sometimes and think, well, I do want to get paid for this. I do want a certain lifestyle in return for the 50 hours a week of my time that I trade for this.
And you're qualified in it. You're like, we have to place some value on the process of becoming qualified in something.
Yeah.
If we don't, then what's the point? Like, exactly. I feel that's what's happening. It's being eroded, and we want to be paid fairly. And I think we've talked a lot on the podcast about this before, about how just maintaining pay over the last 13 years has been a battle, and it hasn't happened. And quality of life for teachers has eroded. And I think the point you wanted to make was about how, okay, it's not a bad wage, though. What would you say to someone?
Yeah, exactly. And it's not. And I know, again, I'll make that point. It's not a bad wage. Teachers if you're at the top of the scale, it's not that great at the beginning, to be honest with you. It's no better than a lot of jobs. Entry-level jobs. But it's not bad. It's not terrible. You're going to be okay. But comparatively, and this is the thing I think that would make a lot of people quit, especially more savvy people, like younger people now, who can just be like, hang on a minute, my parents who did this same job had an unbelievably different lifestyle to me. Why on earth should I trade in? University fees are even higher. I got more debt than them, and I don't get paid anything near as much as they did comparatively. Why should I? I'm going to quit and go get another job that pays more. And some people will be like, yeah, good for you. And I hate it when they do that. Because, okay, everyone do it then. Then we'll see what that person's opinion is.
Yeah.
Someone in my family always says that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, just get another job then. I tell you what, let's get everyone to do that then. And then I'm going to ask you what your opinion is on the state when there's 0 teachers because they all went and got a better job.
Because the problem is they're already doing it. They're doing it now, and we have vacancies. People are quit. People are doing that, and look at the problem it's causing. Look at the percentage of time not taught by specialist teachers anymore. Look at the vacancies that are growing. Something linked to that, and I had this discussion with my friends. One of my friends is a train driver. Okay, he drives trains, and he is on far more money than I am. Okay, and that's a choice. Well, you chose that career, excellent. And I read an article. An article came out today, and it was essentially it was one of those articles where the underlying tone was, "Don't moan, train drivers."
Yeah,
like,
everyone says that.
It was like, you know, here's what a train driver gets compared to a nurse and a teacher, and it was just meant to be like an information, but you could tell the undertone was, can you believe these guys moan about striking and wanting stuff? And it's the same thing you say. If your pay is frozen, your quality of life goes down no matter where you're at, and you're allowed to fight against that. Okay? So, but the point was of the article, and it literally named nurses and teachers, because train drivers were getting something like in the 60,000s of pounds a year, which is way above UPS 3, which is right at the top, which is like 48 grand.
Yeah.
It's like way above.
UPS 3, for any non-teacher listeners, is the top of the pay scale for teachers. It's the highest amount you can be paid as a teacher after usually
years
like 10,
years
at least 10 years of teaching.
So the train drivers are on £60,000, so already like a good 15k above.
Yeah.
And they get paid overtime, right? So it's huge, a huge gulf there. And the whole point of the article was how it's very laid back.
Yeah.
And one guy spoke, who was a train driver anonymously, of course, spoke about it and was like, yeah, I get paid to look out a window. Yeah, I know I've got to concentrate, but I leave work and then it's done. And if I work any extra, it's overtime and I get paid for it.
Yeah.
And the underlying tone was both how cushy it is, don't moan about it, but also nurses and teachers also, why are you moaning? You could just go and get this job. This is a really cool job. And I was talking to my friends about it. And one of my friends' first response, a different friend, was saying, well, it looks like you chose the right career to the train driver. Oh, well done. And I was like, yeah, but the tone is just that, I would just change them.
Yeah.
Just change them. And that's why people are quitting, because they can just change. People are waking up to it and be like, yeah, okay.
Okay, then. Go on then. Good luck with the career.
Yeah.
Because I'm going now. So the government, just change. Yeah, it's just such a stupid
They are doing
story,
it.
Isn't it?
Just change them. Okay.
All right.
Look what's happening, because we are. And I suppose linked to pay then, can you talk briefly, I suppose, about why is funding? So pay making teachers quit makes sense, because you can go somewhere else to get more money. But why is funding making people
Funding is the wider issue, in my opinion, in terms of why teachers are quitting, because that is more of an impact on everyday life at work. Pay is an impact on your personal life, because it's your money. But funding affects things like the support that you receive in school, and that support could be anything from another adult in your classroom to just resources or whatever is needed for a child or a group of children in your class. So when that gets whittled away and away and away and away, and at the same time class size is increasing, but we're going to come back to that later, it becomes very stressful. And if your life is stressful, as Dylan said right at the start of the conversation, what's the most likely thing that's going to happen at the end of that? You're going to quit. Because if it's going to blow, you've got to get out of there. Everything gets to a boiling point. And if your life is getting more and more stressful because the government aren't funding things to make your job, like make you be able to do your job properly, you're going to get stressed. It kind of goes back to the hook, the thing I read to you, which is you just got to not care. If you want to get through this job now, you have to not care. Because if you care about the fact that your children with special educational needs in your class are not getting the provision they should purely because there's no funding anymore, if you care about that, it's going to eat you away. So you just got to not care. And it's a horrible analogy, but it does make a point of, is that what we want? Do we want teachers that don't care? Because that's where it's going to go.
Exactly. Because
everyone else is going to quit because it's horrible.
Because the type of people who get into teaching are the type of people who just really struggle to sit back and watch that happen. So either you're going to drive yourself into the ground doing what you can to support them the best you can, or you become numb. And at the point you become numb, what's the point in carrying on teaching? It's sad.
Yeah.
Sad. Down to the last two.
Yeah, go on.
So I'm sure people are thinking at home, okay, I'm pretty sure I know what these are going to be.
Let's do a quick summary. We've got in fifth place, we're talking about Ofsted. Fourth place, we're talking about culture. Third place, we're talking about pay and funding.
So in at number 2, huge thing we've seen firsthand. We've experienced it. We've seen other people experience it. It can be horrendous. And again, we're going to caveat this. We know it's not everyone. We know there are fantasy, because I feel bad sometimes thinking my friends who are in this role. I don't want them to hear this and think that I'm talking about them. I'm not. But it has to be poor management.
Yeah.
Poor management is a huge driver of people out of the profession. Not only because they become stressed through the amount of through their management from the top down, but also because they just think to themselves, "Well, I don't want to do that job." So there's no career progression there. You know, if you can't get past being a teacher, I don't want to be in management. It's horrendous. So Hayden, why is poor management, driving people out of the profession?
Well, firstly, it's super relatable. This is probably the most relatable point, I think, to any profession, because I think, how many friends have you had in the past where they've quit a job because the managers were rubbish, and it might have just been a part-time job, a temp job, or whatever, but they've quit because they're like, yeah, it's horrible working here. Bye. Yeah. It's exactly the same in teaching. And we've already explained how stressful this job can be anyway. The workload is massive in terms of the time that you're in that building, which we talk about a lot. So if it's not managed well at the school, and it is a skill, at the end of the day, you have to get qualified. You have to have experience in managing to be a good manager. You can't just do it. Some people might be able to, but most people can't. If you have poor managers and they make your life misery all the time, there's only so far you're going to go until you either quit the job completely or you go to another school.
Yeah. And I think what I'd like to do now is kind of draw back to what we talked about Ofsted. Because I think poor management, where Ofsted needs reform, clearly, the reason why management comes higher is because I think management can shield you from a lot of the pressures of Ofsted. And I think good managers do that. I think good managers find a way to say to someone, okay, we understand we're in the Ofsted window, but our approach to this is not going to be to sticker over, plaster over the fact we've got so many cracks. Our approach is going to be, we're going to fix things properly, manageably for our staff, one thing at a time, without trying to do 7 things at once and add huge stress to the whole teaching scene. And be able to say to them, okay, and if Ofsted come, as management, I'm going to explain this. I'm going to say, and it's really hard to do because give them their due, management have huge pressure. Like teachers feel pressure from management feel huge pressure from Ofsted because that's their livelihood. Absolutely. We know what happened with Ruth Perry and that unfortunate incident of the amount of pressure she was under because of a negative Ofsted experience. And that was not to that extreme for all head teachers, is still hugely, hugely impactful on them. And I can see why that feeds down. But good management will make sure that that is a collective kind of burden. And what I mean by that is if a head tries to take on too much of the Ofsted burden themselves, that's, I feel like, when it trickles down massively. If a head gets everyone involved and says, right, this is what we're at. What can we do? How good communication with your staff? How can we make this more manageable for us? What's our plan of action? Rather than knee-jerk, oh God, history doesn't have a chronological feature across the curriculum. Fix that now, by the way. Oh, by the way, and science. Delegate.
Our experiences of the negative experiences have always been with that sort of thing, haven't they? Where it's like just a complete
knee-jerk.
Knee-jerk reaction and just like disregard for other human beings' time who happen to be the teachers that work for you.
Sure.
Just, your time is nothing to me. We need to get these jobs done. The jobs are the priority. Your time is actually nothing to me. That's the only time I've ever experienced it negatively in the past. And it's just like, it's not cool. And surprise, surprise, I quit and so did you.
Yeah.
And so have thousands of other teachers in these positions. They've quit.
That is the big thing for me. And I think it's linked to that as well. The whole disregard for your time. Okay, we've been in a management system previously where there was absolutely no regard for teachers, and I think it was almost a badge for honor how hard they got their staff to work, and their well-being was not remotely come into play. All that eventually happened was there was a well-being questionnaire every now and then, so that they could say to Ofsted, well, we asked them. And we did a yoga class. That was cool. But we still expected them to do.
And no one dared say anything bad on it because
because then, do you know what would happen? This is going to link in nicely with my second point of management.
Yeah, go on then.
Bully people out.
Yeah,
management
happens a lot in teaching.
Actively bully people out. I saw someone say the other day. They wish it was easier for management in a school, for SLT in a school, to openly say, "You don't fit my idea of this school. I will help you look for a different school." But having that dialogue open, I was triggered. Okay, I was triggered.
Hard, isn't it?
I was triggered immediately because I thought, oh no, because this is the whole point. You're going into the structure of, it's my school, my way, rather than this is what I've got to work with. These are the amazing staff I've got. They're going to mold the school, and I'm going to manage them. So I prefer that.
I've got you.
So fair play. This person thinks different. They're led by the head. Whatever. Okay. But then I suppose my point there was, I guess I understand what he's saying because the other option for those kind of head teachers who aren't going to budge, who aren't going to do what I think is the best thing to do, those head teachers who are going to be like, right, it's my way or the highway, it would be better for them to say it from the off and help people find the school. Because what happens otherwise is what we've seen, which is where expensive staff that don't fit, don't look right, staff that don't do the things the way you want to do it.
Or staff that aren't very good.
Staff that aren't very good for sure, but I think I'm explicitly talking about now why people are quitting. So of course, teachers who get into teaching and it's not for them, and they're not the best teachers in the world. Of course, they're probably going to quit at some point and go and find something else to do. Yeah. But explicitly talking about good teachers now who just don't fit the mold, who could get excellent results, but no matter what they do, it's always something wrong with it, because the idea is it's coming from the top down, it's coming from management. And this is why a lot of teachers are quitting. And the advice is always to find a different school, isn't it? But this is why a lot of teachers are quitting, is because they feel like they're being bullied out from their own boss.
Yeah, and that's not a nice feeling, because you put your heart and soul into the job.
Exactly.
And if they're thinking that, the chances of you going away and thinking, oh, it's just that place, and being really reflective, rather than being like, well, I'm clearly just terrible at this job, then I'm going to quit forever. Most people are going to go with the emotional one and be like, well, if the people I work with closely think I'm rubbish at this, then obviously, then I'm terrible, and they will quit rather than...
I think that's when I understood the guy's point. Because again, here in his thread, he then at the end said, it happened to me. I was bullied out of a place. I would rather the head have said to me at the start, you don't fit what I'm going for. Yeah. I'll help you look for a new place.
I've actually had that conversation with someone before as well. Basically, they turned around to me and was like, okay, what would you do then? You've employed someone, they're just not doing their job properly. They are just performing terribly. They're at choice. They're just not doing their job properly.
Again, different to what I'm saying, because this person was doing well.
No, of course.
But I like your point.
All I'm doing is setting up an analogy, just to show that we are so well protected, and it is really good. But so other people's points to me have been, okay, so well protected that when we do genuinely have someone who is not doing their job properly, there's no way of getting rid of them other than this system, which is seen as bullying. Because we've talked before about how support plans now have become so demonized that they're never a good thing now. If anyone's on a support plan, it's immediately like, cool, I'm being bullied out. It's not even real anymore. Support plans aren't even for support. It's just that's the bully tactic now. That's what we use to get rid of staff now.
I think it's important to do what you're doing, which is to point out to people that there are obviously going to be a percentage of the population, of the people who teach, who need support. Yeah. Like, of course there is. I need support in certain things, like, and I'll go out and I seek it. No, of course not. Of course not. You don't. You need support in modesty, pal. You're on a support plan for being modest.
I'm joking.
But yeah, I think management in general, that is always when I ask people or I see people who've left the profession, they will cite management a lot of the time. And some of my friends have left the profession. People I've worked with, people I think were fantastic at their job, have felt the need to just quit early or get out. Directly because of the way they were treated.
Poor management making them feel terrible, and they're out.
And do you know what good management can do? Solve a lot of the retention problem.
Yeah, it can.
Good management can swap someone. And if you join a different school, I'd say to you right now, if you're thinking, I'm going to be one of these statistics these guys are talking about, because, gosh, my management is this, and also the culture is that. Switching school can change a lot of these.
Yeah, it really can, because there are some amazing managers out there. Let's wrap this up with our number one point, which you probably guessed it, because we talk about it a lot, and I mentioned it earlier, is workload. The number one reason, and this is also cited in some of the data sources we were reading earlier, that teachers are leaving this job is because of the workload. It's too much work. So what do we mean by this, Dylan? What situation are we in where workload could be causing people to quit the job that they knew they were getting into, right?
I think the biggest problem we have as a profession is the setup that we currently have, which is that delivering lessons, literally being with the children and delivering lessons and seeing them in the morning and seeing them out in the afternoon, okay, is essentially, we've talked about this before, is pretty much a full-time job, okay, in itself.
Yeah, that bit of the job.
Delivering the teaching, doing the teaching. And one of the hugest problems we have as a profession is you could walk into one school, spend a term there, do all the expectations of what's expected of you from the top down and what you wanted to do, walk into a school down the road and do another term at that school, and have two completely different experiences on workload. Yep. And I want you to expand on this, because my point here is the problem of workload in teaching is that it is so open-ended. Yeah. It is unreal. Why is that a problem? Why is that making people quit?
Well, there's a lot of pot luck, isn't there? There is so much pot luck in the job. And that even goes back to all four, well, mainly the last point, I suppose. It's pot luck, really, if you join a school and they happen to actually be really good at managing you and helping your workload. But, I mean, you made this analogy earlier, so I'm going to steal it from you. You can jump in if you want. But it's pot luck as to the makeup of your class. And there's a few points to this. Firstly, the size. if you go around the country, right, there are different classes. You shocked me with this fact years ago that I just thought every class ever in England had a class size. In the UK, really, had a class size of 32.
Yeah,
I just thought that was bang on standard, primary school, 32. And you were like, no, average is was 28, 26.
Yeah, 26.
I was like, what do you mean the average is 26? Average. So some people have class sizes smaller than that. And then I was like, okay, just private schools. And I don't know. But it wasn't even that. No. So firstly, the class size. Obviously, that affects your workload. And I've personally experienced that. Even this year compared to last year, I'm teaching very different groups of children, and I just have different class sizes because of it.
Dive into that a bit, because I suppose your class size is the same, but again, even within the same school, workload can be different.
Yeah.
Because you might set for English and maths. Yep. There might be a different number of people in the classes. So in one year group, for example, in our year group, I have a class size of 18 for maths, and opposite, there's a class size of 32. Now, we can go into why that happens because of support and because of adult ratios and because of help and blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, I have 18 maths books to mark, and the teacher over the way has 32 maths books to mark every single day.
Yeah, and that's just potluck. Really.
And what about writing?
Exactly. So my situation right now, and this is no disrespect to our current school whatsoever, it's just an interesting fact about how it changes every year, and it's potluck. Last year I had 13 children in my math set, okay, and I had 24 in my English set. So smaller groups than average, I suppose. This year I have 32 in maths, 32 in English.
Yeah. And what are you noticing the difference then?
I'm just at work later, marking. I messaged you the other day, didn't I? It was like 5:30, 5:45, and I was like, oh, brilliant. I was barely scratched the surface, right? Because that day I happened to just have other jobs, also potluck. A parent wanted to speak to me about something, happy to do it. Another meeting happened, happy to do it. It was all great, but all it did was shunt this massive workload, just went blip, 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 blip to the end. It's not like I get to go, well...
I like how you, for the end, is higher.
I was actually trying to do it further away, then I realised that would look terrible on camera where everyone's watching this. And it was just interesting. I was like, oh, cool. Well, if this was last year, if I just happened to have those same sets again, then I would have just had less marking to do. I would have got paid the same, and I would have just gone home, been able to spend more time with my heavily pregnant girlfriend in the last few weeks before. And that just would have happened. It's potluck.
And you'll be back at school after 2 weeks with that, and you will resent it massively.
Yeah. And
because you'll see someone across the street from you, across the road, what was it? Across the corridor, going home half an hour early.
I wish you just carried on doing
Boulevard. The cul-de-sac.
Yeah, going home, and that's fine because I'm not.
Great.
But to bring it back around to the point, because this episode's going on, the problem with workload, I guess, this part of it is about potluck. And if you're just unlucky enough to be in a school that's poorly managed, where your workload is terrible, they've got really bad marking policies, you're doing that, and it's just more than any other school's doing. You've got really high numbers of kids in your set, and you've got children in your set who need more support than the average child.
Yes.
And it is our job to do that.
Yes.
It is just more work, though.
Yes.
If we had 2 classes, parallel classes, right, and you just had 5 children in there with additional needs, and I had 0,
with no funding, by the way, because it's been pushed back because there's not enough funding.
Which is why they're in your class, because previously they might have been able to have specialist support.
Yeah.
No, not anymore. Funding's completely gone.
But there is no funding, but you still need to teach them and provide all of their needs. Please.
You have to, and that might entail planning separate lessons for those children and resourcing separate lessons, and that you'd have to do that. That's not he's just being nice and doing that. You have to do that. That is their right in school. Yeah. And I don't have any children with additional needs to that level. Cool. There you go. We get paid the same. You've got to do 10 more hours of work a week now, and I don't. Simple as. No question to it. You quit in a year. I don't. Oh, teachers, they're all quitting. Why are they moaning? Their pay's fine because he couldn't do the job.
And it comes back to management. If that happens in your school, you simply have to solve that problem. I think the apathetic attitude of simply just, well, them's the breaks. No, they're not, because I'll quit. Okay, that's not the breaks. I'm not planning a separate. I'm already planning maths for my class. We already set for maths, which means it's exactly the right level for my children in that set. If I now have to have completely different curriculum for a child, then I need time to do that. And there's no such thing as overtime in teaching. If that happens and you're already having a tough time because of all the 4 other things we said, oh, by the way, someone's joining, speaks no English, you need resources to help them speak English because they don't speak any. So whilst you're doing maths and English lessons that are bespoke to 8-9-year-old children in this country who've always been here, you also need to do some stuff and get it ready for your child who doesn't speak English and is learning what colours are and what numbers are and how to write them. So, actually, it's already a job, me doing the other thing. And I want to provide for these children. I want nothing more than to provide for every child in my class. But in the same way that I can't individually plan lessons for all children, I can't then just plan it for this child because they fit a certain criteria. We need funding.
Yeah, you need to, but you can't.
Yeah, we need funding. I want to. Book me a morning out so I can plan all of this stuff.
Or book a specialist teacher to come and run all this stuff. I'll deliver it.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing is, you know, you said that analogy. There will be someone in this country right now who's in that situation and drowning in workload, and there'll be someone else in the country who's getting paid exactly the same on the same pay point.
Or they're in Scotland, they're getting paid more.
Or that. With a class of 24, no additional needs, and shared planning with 3 other teachers.
Yeah.
And they don't, you know, and the workload's crazy different. So to bring it all back around, workload is a massive problem. It's not regulated whatsoever. It's complete potluck as to whether your workload is going to be so unmanageable that you quit or not. And in my imaginary school, the one that we're making up in this, I genuinely think if I was in that management position, I want a workload policy, and I'd want someone in charge of it, whether it was me or someone else employed to do that. And I would have something like a bit of time spent looking at every staff member's workload and actually taking into account the individual differences.
Yes.
Okay, we've put you in year 6, and we've put you with all the top sets. Mm-hmm. And do you know what? That does result in 3-4 more hours a week of you marking. Here's what we're going to do about it. Mm-hmm. This teacher over here, okay, we've recognised that you don't get to share your planning with anyone, but everyone else does because you're teaching these bespoke groups. And you've got 2 children in there that need like individual planning. So what we're going to do for you to balance out your workload of everybody else as best as we can is X and Y. We're going to give you time. And I like the idea of everyone having this individual workload.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. I think it's a brilliant idea. I think it's a lot of time, and again, it comes down to funding because again, if you're ahead, you've probably got 17 other things to do.
It's funny, isn't it?
3 other jobs to do, and you need it for yourself.
In this situation, like the analogy goes up for that head teacher who's also drowning in workload. Yeah. The idea of putting in all this specialised stuff for some of their staff members, the additional needs for the staff members, is just the same thing. Like now they can't do that job.
And this, I think, I want to culminate everything in. I think everything we've talked about. It comes from the top down. I think we have to have a seismic change in how education is ran in this country. And I think that comes from government. I really do. And I think government taking it seriously and not expecting things just to get done because they will get done because we have caring staff. It won't. We are having people leave the profession in droves, and we are sleepwalking into a catastrophic situation for education. I thought I was saying a really
Go back and listen to that blunder of words was perfect.
We
for
are
the situation.
sleepwalking into a catastrophic situation when it comes to education. And when someone says just leave if it's that bad, the issue is that we are.
Yeah. So to summarise our list, and then we are going to leave you from this episode. In 5th place, Ofsted. In 4th place, the culture, parents, media, the prestige of the job. In 3rd place, pay and funding. In 2nd place, although we talked about it a lot more, maybe it's joint first by the end of this conversation, I don't know, is management and how your school's managed. And at the top of this list of why teachers are quitting is workload.
Guys, hope you enjoyed that episode, and we'll see you again next time.
Bye.